And welcome back into the Nesson Digital Studios. If you've joined us for pregame and halftime, you probably understand that this is the postgame show. Courtney Cox alongside Doug Kyde. Patriots fall in their second preseason game. They're 0-2 in the preseason. This time against the Texans, 27-23 final score. So nothing crazy, nothing to get worked up about.
No, the sky is not falling just because the Patriots lost in the preseason game. This one means slightly more than the first one, but really it all comes down to backup. So if Tom Brady was out there in that 2-minute drill at the end of the game, results probably would have been a little bit different.
Yeah, so we did talk about Tom Brady at halftime during the first half of the game where we saw him, you know, go out there and be Tom Brady. A little bit, flashes of him. It wasn't full blown. So let's talk about the other two guys in the second half. Jimmy Garoppolo, we saw flashes of goodness.
Yes.
We're not going to say greatness.
No.
Final stat line, he went 15 of 23, 145 yards, a touchdown. He was also sacked twice, threw an interception, and fumbled.
Yeah, lost the fumble there, yeah.
So there's some issues in that.
Don't like to see 2 turnovers. The interception especially was bad. It's going to be curious to see what he says about that. I don't know if he was trying to throw the ball away, but he kind of just really lofted it up to the Texans cornerback there and picked off, returned for a pretty long return too. So, I mean, if this was a real game, that would have been a pretty costly error there. Not what you'd like to see out of Garoppolo, but like you said, flashes of goodness, going 15 of 23, pretty good, 145 yards for, you know, about a half of play. You could certainly do worse than that. Threw a touchdown to DJ Foster. It was kind of a wide open play, but definitely not Jimmy Garoppolo's best game. Patriots are definitely hoping that he'll bounce back a little bit better in that 3rd and 4th preseason game. But at the same time, they kind of know what they have in Garoppolo.
Right.
Based on what he's done his first 3 seasons, they might like to see him do better just as far as trade value goes. But the big question there is if they'd ever be willing to trade him in the first place. So not a lot to be concerned about with Garoppolo. I still think he's a good quarterback, but not his best showing.
Well, and you think, you know, he's done this a few times now. This isn't his rookie season by any means. So interesting to see that. But he was pulled after the interception in the 4th. JACOBY BRISSETT comes in. He had some issues there as well. Yeah,
it's not great to see. He's had 2 opportunities now in 2 straight preseason games to lead them to a win in that 2-minute drill, and he's failed both times. So that's really kind of tough to see, and he had a turnover there at the end too when he fumbled the ball through the end zone. Very strange play, honestly, because usually fumbles go backwards. This one went really far forwards, kind of fumbled it right before he was rearing back to throw. So tough break for him. Only went 5 of 10 with 36 yards. Did have the sack in there as well. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what to make of JACOBY BRISSETT at this point. And how he fares in these next 2 preseason games really will probably dictate whether the Patriots elect to keep him around or not. I still think they will, just because they probably would like to have that project quarterback behind Jimmy Garoppolo if they decide to move on from Garoppolo, or if Tom Brady, for some reason, drops off a cliff this season as far as talent-wise goes. Doesn't look like that's going to be the case, especially based on tonight. But I don't know. I mean, that's a valuable roster spot. You only get 53 roster spots. A 3rd quarterback really isn't going to do you much good during the season. If he does if he does have to be inserted into a game at this point, it probably doesn't mean great things for the Patriots if he can't form a 2-minute drill against a 3rd-string defense. So, yeah, not a great showing for JACOBY, and he'll have to improve in the 3rd and 4th preseason games.
Well, while we're on the topic of quarterbacks, let's talk about the guy on the other side of the ball. If we have any Texans fans out there watching, Deshaun Watson, not crazy great through the air, but we got to see him on his feet, and I think that's what makes him so valuable in the NFL. And he got himself a touchdown. Yeah, 3 of 10. Well, like what you said, not great, but 102 yards. That's not bad. But he scored a touchdown, looked good. One. Yeah, it was 2-yard touchdown, something like that. But Coney Ealy was right in front of him on that play, and he had no problem running around a defensive end, which is, I mean, that's a great thing to see if you're Watson. Not so great if you're Coney Ealy. On the subject of quarterbacks, Tom Savage actually looked pretty good in this game too. He went 8 of 9 with a touchdown, 98 yards, threw some pretty decent passes out there. So really seems like there's a pretty good quarterback competition there with the Texans. And just as far as this very tiny sample size goes,
Tom Savage looked much better than Brock Osweiler did last season for the Texans. So regardless, the Texans might be in better shape this season with their quarterback situation.
Savage versus Watson celebration dance-wise, though, Watson's got him beat.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
After
absolutely.
that 2-yard touchdown, you would have thought that he just won the Super Bowl.
yeah, very excited rookie,
Yeah, but we got to talk about something that happened near the end of the game. We both thought it was kind of weird. Cody Hollister going down in the corner there in the end zone. It took him a while to get back up, but we weren't sure really what was wrong. It wasn't clear if it was a knee or an ankle or a leg. But he has been suffering injuries during this preseason.
Yeah, there was a moment during training camp pretty early. I think it was only the second or third practice where he went down with some sort of injury. It was very unclear what it was because he was kind of able to walk off the field. But so I think we all kind of assumed it was a hand injury of some sort. Then he came back for the joint practices against the Texans. Then, according to reports out there, he went down awkwardly on the field during the practices. Some sort of maybe like body, hip, something like that injury. Was slow to get up, kept practicing. He saw his first preseason action tonight. Went up for a ball in the end zone in the fourth quarter there. Came down hard. But he took a while to get up. I was a little bit scared at first.
I was too, because he wasn't really moving on the ground.
It didn't look like he could get up. Then eventually he just very slowly got up and walked off the field and didn't stay in for the next play, however. So it's a tough break for him, especially as an undrafted rookie. You need to be on the field. And if he's not able to stay on the field, then he has no shot of making the roster. While we're on the subject of injuries, Landon Roberts also left with a rib injury that was, unfortunately for his case, after he let up a 63-yard catch to Deontay Foreman. I always want to say, who's the Falcons running back? Freeman?
Freeman.
It's very, very similar names. Yeah, and once I have one in my head, I can't think of the other one's name. But yeah, so he went down with a rib injury. He walked to the sideline, but then had to be carted from the sideline to the locker room. So not a great sign for Landon Roberts, who was also kind of fighting for a roster spot. Never like to see those injuries, but nothing major for a starter in this game for the Patriots. So as far as injuries go, the Patriots could have done worse in this game.
Right, well, we're talking about one Hollister brother. There's another one that is on the roster as well as of right now. And we talked about him, during the pregame report, during the halftime report. So we should continue with that. Final stat line for him was not great. Jacob ended up with 4 yards, I want to say.
Yeah, one catch for 4 yards.
Yeah, but he's up against O'Shaughnessy, who didn't have a crazy stat line tonight either. 41 yards, I think. Finishing.
Yeah, he had 5 catches for 41 yards. Yeah, I think that O'Shaughnessy looked better in this game just because he was targeted more. I mean, he was targeted 6 times versus 1 time for Hollister. But O'Shaughnessy also fumbled in the game. It was close bang play, could have been called an incompletion, could have been called a fumble. It ultimately was called a fumble. It got knocked out of bounds. But you know how much Bill Belichick likes his ball control.
Right.
And it's not great when a guy fumbles on 5 preseason catches so far. So he's another guy who will probably need to have a little bit better preseason moving forward. On the subject of Hollister, since we're talking about guys who starred in that Week 1 game, Austin Carr also not the greatest game in this one. He had 3 catches on 5 targets for 31 yards. Not as good as he had last week. Not every week's going to be a game where you catch a leaping ball in the end zone, but those guys maybe trending back downwards a little bit, and they were probably trending a little bit too high after the first week.
So overall, we just saw, a full game. Who would be your star? You're taking away any position, any guy. Who do you take away as a star in this one?
It's Rex Burkhead. He had a massive first half, and actually DJ Foster wound up having a pretty similar game. But the fact that Burkhead was able to do it against the Texan starters, I think means quite a bit more. He wound up with 3 catches, 50 yards, and a touchdown. He had 7 carries for 20 yards. That part doesn't look great, but he did look powerful running between the tackles. I think that he has a chance to really take on that early down carries starting running backs role. It's very complex when you're talking about whoever is the Patriots starting running back because it's really split into 2 roles. You've got James White as the 3rd down back, then you have the other running back, and it's really going to be either Burkhead, Mike Gillislee, or Dion Lewis. I was actually impressed with all of the running backs today. Mike Gillislee is sitting out with a hamstring injury. He could start getting leapfrogged on the depth chart a little bit because I thought Dion Lewis had another good game this week. He had a good kick return, looked good through the air, looked good on the ground. And then DJ Foster, definitely the fastest of the Patriots running backs. He had a fumble in week 1, but he bounced back big. Second touchdown of the preseason, 4 catches for 52 yards with a touchdown, and on the ground he had 6 carries for 23 yards. So all in all, a good night for Patriots running backs. And while we're at it, Brandon Bolden also had a good game. He's another guy fighting for a roster spot. All
right, now let's talk about the other end of the spectrum. Any flops on the night?
Yeah, I write a piece every week who, the biggest standouts, positive and negative, go. My 2 negative standouts were Jimmy Garoppolo, who we already touched on, and Malcolm Butler, which is kind of an odd one, but he had 5 catches on 5 targets for 71 yards with a touchdown. There was a deep pass down the sideline that he kind of seemed to forget to jump for it. He must have lost the ball. Yeah, it just
no, I forgot again.
Didn't cross my mind to jump for the ball. That's kind of what it looked like. He was just kind of standing there, and the guy caught the ball over and was like, Malcolm, hello. But he probably did lose the ball in the lights. But still, that's him letting up a 37-yard catch, something like that, to someone who's not. It's not DeAndre Hopkins. It's not a stud wide receiver. So not great on that end. Also let up the 2-yard touchdown. But, he'll bounce back. Butler's kind of the guy who does occasionally have those down performances, and then he'll string off 4 weeks where he doesn't let up a catch. So hopefully, for the Patriots' sake, he's just getting this out of the way now, and he'll be fine when the regular season starts.
Well, an interesting tweet that you got, people saying, like, Stephen Gostkowski, and he had a good night. Yeah. And for you, you were like, you'll all miss him when he's gone.
Yeah, that's the thing. Someone's already looking to trade Stephen Gostkowski. Yeah. I think they saw him hit 3 field goals and 2 extra points and think that his value is as high as ever because we saw a kicker who's taken in the 2nd round get cut after 1 year. Right. Kickers are very tough to predict, and Stephen Gostkowski, even at his worst, is still an average kicker.
Steady for the Patriots.
Yes, very steady throughout his career. Someone on, I think it was Reddit, put this out there, that last season, which I think everyone would probably say was his worst of his career, his field goal percentage was Adam Vinatieri's career average. So, yeah, kicking has probably got a little bit easier over the years for one reason or another, or just kickers are better now. Yeah. But even at his worst, still an average kicker, and that goes for field goals, extra points, and you can certainly do much worse than Stephen Gostkowski. It was good to see him 5 for 5 in this game. Good things for the Patriots.
All right, so if you're Bill Belichick and you're looking at this game overall, and you know that you've got another preseason game right around the corner, you're 0 for 2, what are you looking at when you're going back to the drawing board? And is there a position in particular that you're saying to the coaching staff, we really need to focus in on this?
Maybe a couple. One of them is offensive line, and I don't know how much to be concerned about this just because Nate Solder's still not in there, but there's no one on the back end of the Patriots offensive line that's going to make the roster this year. They're all bad, just to be frank. They all are terrible. So all those rookies that they picked up, maybe they'll be in the practice squad this year.
Not beating around the bush there.
No, they're not exactly going to replace Marcus Cannon and Nate Solder at tackle. They're not going to replace any of the starters. Those guys, you can just cross off the names one by one. But that's not great because you'd like to see 1 or 2 of those guys step up and compete with maybe Cameron Fleming or Adrian Waddle for the tackle spot. I thought Ted Karras has been playing pretty decently. So the offensive linemen that will make the team are decent, but there's just some question marks there with Solder, and then we haven't seen Tony Garcia yet, who's probably going to be the 8th offensive lineman on this team. The other one's just defensive end, and we've talked about it kind of ad nauseum at this point, but no one has flashed. No one has done enough where you're saying, all right, he's going to be the guy who's starting opposite Trey Flowers this season. I thought Coney Ealy was fine this week. I thought Adam Butler made some plays. Harvey Longy had kind of a tough time. He played like a rookie a couple times out there, but no one's just like taking the bull by the horns or something. Maybe that fits with the Texans, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'd just like to see a little bit more out of those guys in the next 2 games.
All right, well, there you have it. And I got to say, we talked about Gronk's haircut all throughout the game. At the end, we did get to see him helmet off, so the haircut did pay off.
Yeah. He got it out there.
Yeah, he did. But we now need to, starting right now, Bill Belichick does not want to talk at all about what happened. He's now on to Detroit.
On to Detroit, yeah.
Which is a Friday night game, August 25th. So that's right around the corner.
It is, yeah.
If we're doing
6
the math,
days.
it's less than a week.
Yep. It's tough. Yes, 6 days to that one, and then 6 days to the Giants, and then 7 days to the season. It's coming right up. But yeah, that's I don't know. We'll see how they do in that game.
Sad for Patriots fans because that one is on the road as well.
I know. Yeah, the game where they'll see Brady for half the game, but
at
least they'll get to watch it on TV, I guess.
Yeah, and Detroit's really not that far away. You could go make a little trip, end of the summer trip.
Yeah, nothing like
one of those. Go to Detroit.
Yeah, summer trip to Detroit. Visit some lakes or something.
Doesn't everyone do that?
Yeah, go boating maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm
not going to, but maybe Patriots.
Doug has a baby on the way, so he has some things that
I have to stick around.
You have to stick around.
Yep.
Yeah. But that will do it for us. If you guys were here for pregame, halftime, and postgame, thanks for going 3 for 3. We appreciate it. Make sure to follow along on Twitter with Doug at Doug Kide or myself at Cox Courtney. Make sure to keep it locked in. Nesson.com. We've got all your Patriots, all your NFL needs throughout the preseason and in the regular season. Like Doug said, it's right around the corner. Is. So things are crazy, and we'll be sure to be doing this all throughout the NFL season. We will have your pregame, postgame, halftime reports, sometimes from Gillette.
Yeah.
Sometimes on the road for you, too.
Sometimes on the road, sometimes via phone.
Oh, wow. There
Technology.
You go. Technology these days. Pretty great. But thanks for tuning in on this Saturday night. Go out, have fun, go to sleep maybe. Tomorrow's Sunday, then it's Monday.
That's fair.
That is how the week works.
Actually correct.
But thanks for tuning in. Football is so back, and we're so excited. So we will see you next time.